Now, it's really important for us to have these satellites, to have our own remote sensing. As I was saying, in the Congo, a very rich country with many deliberate conflicts that are created in order to continue to keep the Congo and many areas of natural resources destabilized. We need to be able to use our remote sensing to find out where the minerals, the geosciences, in other words, that can help us survey where our mineral resources are, where are they being depleted, and to also, again, use the remote sensing capability from the satellite to be able to look at illegal mining, which is done by the Canadians, which is done by the Australians. Many countries where there's conflict thrive and are able to steal and many minerals without ever paying for them. So this would give us the capacity for countries to really monitor this area. Very, very important for us. Also, the satellite helps us in our communication. As you know, many of us have relied on our communications to be produced, I suppose, enabled in Europe before they come to us. And now with all these national security scams that have been happening, and you will know that just this week, the president of Brazil refused to come to a state visit on the basis of such a scandalous thing as another country spying on another president's communication with her aides. It's not to be. It's unbelievable. But if we don't control our own communication, we are not able to control our own national security. And so national security has become fundamental for African countries. We need to be able to communicate within countries, but we also need to communicate with each other safely. We need to be able to keep our information to ourselves, particularly as we grow and particularly as we are seen now as the next frontier of economic growth in the world. We need to have proper communication systems that can really begin to protect, especially many of our innovations. We can't be talking on the line and and creating things and talking amongst ourselves as scientists while everybody has already picked up that information. So it's not only Europe, it's not only the US, we also have to watch out for China, which is very, very important. The big elephant in the room, but we have to keep an eye out for that. I think that one of the things that is also important for me to say is that South Africa won the bid to build the largest radio telescope in the Southern Hemisphere, called the Square Kilometre Array, this SKA. We got 80% of it. We should have gotten 100%, but the other 20% went to Australia. You know, they had to have some white people, you know, make it look nice and whitewash it. And because, you know, Africans can't do science. The thing is, science needs Africa. And because we have so much that needs to be explored. But there is so much knowledge on the African continent that serves as such a powerful solution for many of the problems that confront the world today. So we took on the Square Kilometre Array, and what has been exciting is the number of African scientists that have converged around this project, which runs through 8 different African countries right up to Ghana. And how it is stimulating the scientific world, not only just in terms of research, but in terms of innovation, which is really, really critical as we go into the future. And so, having said that, I really want to encourage many young women to enter the area of astronomy. We need you. We need your eyes. We need the capacity to communicate. We need to be able to have people who know about remote sensing, people who are able to find the minerals for us, let us know how much we have in reserve. So all of these are such critical parts for us as women. Why women? We live longer. We live longer. And so I think the burden of really creating new innovations in the future is going to be on us as women, because we will live longer with our daughters. And so it's incumbent on us to really create a future that is really going to be fantastic for ourselves and for our communities, for our countries, and for the entire continent and for African people all over the world. I think we have to really carry this for the African continent. The next area that I would like to talk about are really the importance of biotechnology. I know many times when we hear about biotechnology, where people talking about Dolly the sheep, they're talking about all this cloning, which is crazy in the first place, but that's not the kind of biotechnology or life sciences that I am talking about. When we talk about biotechnology on the African continent, again, I'm talking about African women who have been the custodians of biodiversity. In other words, all the herbs, all the roots, all of the gardens of medicines that we have all over the African continent. After Madagascar, South Africa has the second highest biodiversity in the world, but Madagascar has huge biodiversity. That's just a virtual medicine garden, if one can call it that. I think it's important for us to enter the area of biotechnology so that we can develop these herbs and roots into medicines that can be used. They are already being used. I think 75% of people who actually have medical problems start at the marketplace, where if you travel throughout the African continent, there's a certain part of the marketplace where they have these bottles filled with different medicines or herbs and roots and dried leaves, pounded beans, all sorts of things. This is the pharmacy. This is the African pharmacy. But many generations now are beginning to dislike, to distance themselves from this market, because it comes in a recycled Coca-Cola bottle. It comes recycled in the cooking oil bottle. I mean, who wants to buy that? Everybody just thinks, oh my God, I'm going to get even sicker using this stuff. So we need many African women to enter the area of biotechnology so that we can test, so that we know what ingredients go into this, so that we can bottle these things ourselves and sell them to the world. What is happening now is we have a lot of biopirates because we ourselves are losing the importance of preserving this biodiversity. We allow all sorts of people to come into our beautiful gardens all over the African continent, and they're stealing this stuff, going into their laboratories, testing it, creating the same products that we're able to create in the recycled Coca-Cola bottles. And because they're able to market it and they're able to label it and it passes the FDA standards and all of that, they're able to sell these products right back to us. So we need the area of biotechnology in order to really particularly enter the area of biopharmaceuticals. And because in it, there are all sorts of medications that heal the African body. And I think that we've got to grab that back. The capitalist system has been trying for many, many years to actually push that system down, because they know once it comes onto the market and we take control of it, it will certainly kill their own marketplace. So we've got to look at that and begin to work on it. The other area that I'd like to talk about is the area of green technology. Now, we waste a lot everywhere we waste. And one of the things that I have appreciated about the Japanese is they don't waste anything. You have to pay them to recycle. They recycle everything from wood. They recycle even the small platinum that is found inside your cell phone, which is very dangerous for us because we sell them a lot of the platinum. And if they are able to eventually recycle more of that platinum, it simply means they won't be buying from us for much longer. And many miners, of course, will lose work unless we begin to think of everything that is in our community as wealth. From biomass, which means things like the coverings of palm oil that can be transformed into energy. All those things are natural energy. It is taking your banana leaves and recycling those into energy. So the whole area of the green economy is really, really fundamental. It's looking at how we construct our buildings so that our buildings are healthy buildings to live in. The air that we breathe is not that air-conditioned, dry, but if we can build our structures in such a way that they allow sufficient and good air to come in. The water we use, we are able to recycle that water many times within the household, right out and ensuring that it goes out into the garden and waters our crops. We are able to use our bottles to decorate even some of our steps and even make chandeliers out of some of these bottles. So it's really taking clothing, recycling this clothing as well, and turning it into new pieces of fabric, new pieces of clothing. Taking our plastic bags that we love so much at the shopping center and our PET bottles from the bottled water that so many people like. Well, here in Japan, it's necessary. You can't drink this radiated water. But the PET bottles, you can crush those into pellets, and those pellets can be crushed further. And that final product can actually be used to insulate jackets, for house insulation, for flooring, under the carpet. There's also insulation that you need there. So it is really getting into this mindset into our communities that nothing that we throw away cannot be used again for something. And so we've got to begin to educate, I think, our communities. We ourselves have to educate ourselves as women, and just in terms of how do we run our own households. It's just starting there and teaching our children how to recycle. And it's also teaching our children how to give. Some of the things that we don't use, somebody else can use those to create something. And so I think this area for me can spark so many job opportunities for our people. It can become a whole new economy for us. And so I think this is an area where we as women really, really need to take center stage and lead this process and ensure that not only are we cleaning up our communities, not only are we keeping our environment clean, but we are showing that we have not become obsessed with consumption as our communities, because we go into the shop, and if you don't have 5 choices of beans, I don't know why we need 5 choices of beans, canned beans at that. It becomes crazy. But it is really just changing the mindset about how we do things, how we consume, and really beginning to see what we can do with the surplus. I mean, all of us can go into our closets and pull out some serious surplus of many, many things. I have a friend who is teaching my how to make bags here in Japan. She takes all of her old handbags, cuts them up, and makes shoes, sandals, boots with them. And so what do? We take them and we throw them at the Salvation Army. We pitch them in the bin. But this is the kind of mentality that these people have, that they recycle everything. And I think this is really, really fantastic, really fantastic. I want to just quickly tap into the issues that we really need to talk about in terms of how do we create brain circulation. Everybody talks about brain drain. I want to talk about brain circulation. How do we circulate African brains throughout the African world? And this is very, very critical for us now. There are many opportunities now in many African universities, and I know in South Africa in particular, we have created what we call research chairs in various universities that enable us to find experts in their field. So in the area of astronomy, in most of the areas that I've talked about today, there are opportunities not only in South Africa but throughout the African continent, because there's a realization that we don't want to have the same pattern of digging up our raw materials and sending them outside and then have those products sold back to us at a much higher price than we get even for the commodity prices like platinum, gold, diamonds, palladium, all of these important minerals that we sell to the rest of the world. That what we need is to circulate brains within the African world, where we can bring in brothers and sisters from all over the African world who can be creators of new knowledge, who can be innovators, who can look at platinum and say, out of platinum, these are the new products that we can make. We don't want people to come and tell us how to make nails or, how to make hammers or hoes. We know how to do that already. In fact, we don't need the technology anymore. What we need are new inventions, new innovations that can come out deep out of the African continent and be sold to the rest of the world. Finished products. New products that have not been seen in the marketplace. And I think we have the capacity to do that because we have the brains, but we need to be able to circulate these brains throughout the African world so that we can stimulate. So through the research chairs that are being created, not only in my country, but throughout the African continent. We're looking for experts that can come to the university, that can come to the technology colleges, that can bring this knowledge, but not only just bring knowledge, but create an environment where people, young women and men, can create new knowledge. You are stimulating a new way of thinking about ourselves as the African continent. Now we educate young women and men in our universities and colleges to get a job. That's no longer good enough. And in fact, the area of labor, in my view, in 20 to 30 years, how we worked in the trade unions and how we worked as laborers in the past is in the past. I think that era is coming to an end. I think our own governments are doing such a good job of smashing trade unionism that I don't think we're going to see trade unionism in the way that we experienced it 20 years ago. So the whole area of labor is going to change and transform fundamentally. And I think that we're going to go back, in fact, to very oppressive, really sliding back in terms of labor relations today, because capitalists are making more money than they've ever made, and their greed is is uncontainable. It keeps growing. And more workers are being asked to sacrifice more in order for those profits to be made. And I think we need to transform the whole area of work, the whole area of how we create and how we innovate products. And we need a new business model for that. That swallows people into the system and does not spit people out of the system as it does now. So we need this brain circulation to help us rethink, relook at ourselves and relook at ourselves in terms of what our future is going to look like as Africa. And we need to create new fields of science and technology that have not yet been created, simply because we have the natural resources. That's the beauty of the African continent. We have everything that it will take to actually create what the future world economy is going to look like. But it can't happen outside our borders anymore. We have to engineer it and ensure that it happens on the African continent. And so I want to encourage this brain circulation, that people, women and men, take up the opportunity to apply for these research chairs in just about every field, and bring this new level of innovation so that we can become the creators of tomorrow's wealth. I think that we are standing on the cusp of greatness as the African people. But it is also a very risky moment, because it is encountering so much pressure to do things the old way. And so the many conflicts and the many manufactured conflicts that we are seeing through the so-called Arab Spring, I think it's must be the Arab death, are really, and if you look at countries like Libya, that is under their basin is got some of the richest water resources in the world. And you look at the Sudan, which has some of the best oil. You look at the coast of Guinea, which also is now gas and oil. And if you look at where the capitalists are beginning to activate these manufactured wars, where they are introducing a whole lot of drug cartels that are destabilizing governments. Imagine drug cartels literally running governments, right up from West Africa throughout North Africa. The Malian situation is a case in point. Drug cartels coming in, playing into many of these Al-Qaeda elements, and the combination of these two, this religious exceptionalism, I think very, very dangerous situations for the African continent. So this is why I'm saying our science and technology must be able to monitor. We must have the capacity to monitor our communication, to monitor what is happening on the ground, to monitor how people are moving, and to monitor the national security. So we have to monitor our internet, of course, the ways in which we communicate there, because the drug cartels are not only moving drugs, there's human trafficking that is moving alongside this, and they are using very, very effectively the communication system, the social media. They are using all of that, and we are steps behind. And so we've got to bridge this and take it over and create systems that can really begin to really protect the national security of the African continent more than ever. This is something that we've really got to go. They're after our minerals, they're after our blue economy, they see the potential in the green economy, as well as even the white economy, which is really beginning to look at Africa as an area where they can industrialize. In other words, set up industrial parks that only create and manufacture products for the export market. You will never see these products on the African market. They'll only be using Africa as a playing ground where they can do their things and send those things elsewhere. So we are at a crossroads, I think, as the African continent, African people all over the world. And as women rise up to take up more leadership positions, and as we really own and control the 21st century, we have to be up to speed on what is happening around us, I think, as leaders of the future. And we have to acknowledge where we are weak, and our advocacy must transform. It's good to talk, and I'm happy today that I've not talked about politics in a direct way, but I hope that you have gotten the political message that I'm trying to show, that if we don't get the science and technology right, the politics actually don't matter. So we've got to bridge and bring these together, and look at how we can bring our power to come to influence this area for us for the future. And I think that we can do it. Pan-Africanism is the only way in which we can do it. If we're talking about brain circulation, Pan-Africanism is the only way in which we can do this. And so we have to make our Pan-Africanism relevant for the 21st century. And it must be the type of Pan-Africanism that can chart a future for our people, a future that shows that we are not only at the table, we are not only designing what the shape of the table is, but we are shaping the entire world. And I think that the power is in the hands of all of us as women in the African world. We can do this, and I think that we just have to continue our conversations, our analysis, continue to share that analysis. But more than ever, as we recruit more young women, particularly into this Pan-African road that we are building and shaping and moving into, we have got to harness the new skills that we need to run our continent and to reshape the manner in which people look at us as African people all over the world.